Logic 0, example 5.1. In chapter 5, we make the transition to actual logic because our operations now, rather than being just additions, subtraction, and multiplication, which are arithmetical operations that we're familiar with outside of logic, there are other operations. Those operations will function as logical operations, but there are other operations that are purely logical, that are not used in arithmetic. And so the operations now are these in this table titled The Logical Operations of Primary Importance. And so throughout the rest of the course, these are the operations that we're going to use. And the definitions of these operations are actually contained here in the table. So one way, if you're like, well, what do these symbols mean? What they mean is actually contained within the lookup table. The meaning is defined in the lookup table. When the left input is even and the right input is even, for this operation, this lowercase v, the result is going to be even. And when it's odd, even, it's odd. And when it's even, odd, it's odd. And when it's odd, odd, it's odd. And notice that there's no column here in this table that is identical to the other. So each of these operations is logically distinct because the definitions as described in this table are distinct. They're logically different from one another, each from the other. One thing to notice in this table is that negation, which is this tilde, and the tilde is found typically on a typewriter keyboard in the far upper left to the left of the number 1 on the keyboard. And so we're going to use this tilde for negation, and that's an operation, but it is a monary operation. It only takes a right-hand input. There's no left-hand input. These other operations are binary. They take a left input and a right input. There's 2 inputs. Negation is a monary or monary operation. It takes only 1 input, and that input is to the right of the operation. Okay, so the tilde is negation. The ampersand is conjunction. So in logic, we call and conjunction. And we just mean and specifically, not or, but, etc. Like in English, we call all of those conjunctions. When we say conjunction in logic, we mean and often ampersand is used to indicate conjunction. Okay, and our lowercase v, that is disjunction. So ampersand conjunction, lowercase v disjunction. And this maps to the English usage of the word or. So disjunction is or, conjunction is and then this angle bracket, or maybe the greater than symbol, we're not using it as greater than. So when you see this symbol in this course, you want to think of it as material consequence. Material consequence. And that maps to if-then constructions. If you follow my directions here, then you will do well in the course. That's an if-then construction. And when we convert that into symbolic logic, we will use this symbol to indicate that if-then construction. And in logic, we often use the phrase only if to indicate this, because it keeps the ordering of elements within an English sentence the same as the ordering of the elements within the symbolic sentence. So this is L only if R. You listen carefully to my explanations only if you will do well in this course. So that's that doesn't seem, sometimes that may not seem to you that it's the same thing as saying, if you listen to my instructions carefully, then you will do well in the course. But logically, they come out to be the same. And we'll see examples of this in the future. So this is only if. It's called technically the operation of material consequence. And then we're going to use an equal sign for material equivalence. And in English, this maps to the usage of if and only if. You listen carefully to my instructions if and only if you do well in this class. And that means both. If you listen carefully, then you will do well, and you will do well only if you listen. So if and only if is kind of like bi-directional material consequence. Okay, so this is the lookup table that we're using. And, you don't really need to know anything more than what's contained in this table, because, if you're really just trying to get by without, going so deep into all the explanations, you just look up the answers in the lookup table, just like we've been doing already. All the answers are in the lookup table. So these are new symbols. If you look them up, you look everything up in the lookup table, just as we've been doing. We've just altered our lookup table. Okay, so with that being said, let's take a look at this example. Example 5.1. And what I'm going to do here is just copy this part, and I'll complete it. So, and just to rehearse the whole routine, let's say that we start out with something that looks like this. I'm going to put the opening tag. So this is the way I typically do it, the order in which I do things. And then I'm going to copy over the value of A, skip material consequence because we don't have the right-hand input yet, underscore for the opening parenthesis. B is even. Conjunction gets skipped for now. C is odd. And now we can evaluate the conjunction. So we're going to look at even, odd, and we're going to go over to conjunction. It says it's even. So that evaluates to even. And now we have the right input is even for the material consequence, and the left input is odd. So we're going to go to odd even, And we're going to go over to material consequence. And it says that it is even. And since it is the last operation that we come to, that's the dominant operation, we're going to make that the number 0. And then we're going to put a semicolon right here because we don't want trailing underscores, as discussed in an earlier demonstration. Okay, and then we're going to put our closing tag. And then we're going to eliminate the line breaks, and the answer string that we will copy and paste as our answer is this.